there's a lot. I assume that there's a line that you would say that this is acceptable for Donald Trump to do, and everything past this line is unacceptable. The question that I'm asking is, and like, if it gets past this line, I'd be willing to like advocate against the Trump administration. The question I'm asking is, why is it that not holding an American election is past that line, but like having the unilateral ability to disappear people is before that line?
You're probably not going to like my answer.
We're going to chat with this dude who we talked to on the Raging Tomato for like 2 seconds. He's an Aussie. Hopefully it goes well. Also, Delta, I'm going to mute yourself so it's not like a dog pile. Thank you. Oh. Hello. Oh. Did that one work? Working now?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can finally hear you.
Okay, cool.
Perfect.
Great. Didn't a little bit confused there with Discord. So yeah, I just saw that you were online. If now doesn't work, no problem. I've got like an hour to kill, so
works perfectly fine for me.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, as I said to Ivory, another guy I've talked to since I was last on Sarah's channel, we had a pretty good conversation. It's just, if there's one thing I don't like about Sarah's panels is that they fill up, so you can barely get a word in. Yep. So yeah, I don't support everything Trump does. In fact, I was quite disappointed with his first term. And the reason why I'm speaking very positively of him now is partly because of what we've had with Biden Harris, but also there are just a lot of good things he's doing. And when you mentioned in the messages about him being like pro-American, or I said I see his vision similar to that of the founding fathers. That was again another thing which I would have loved to elaborate on, but it's hard to do it on a panel of 10 where everyone talks over each other. So the title of that live was, "Is Trump pro-American?" Yeah. And I say yes. I can give you examples, but ask me whatever you want, bro.
Okay. So the first thing that I would ask, just so I know like what to hit on and what you already agree with me on, like what are some things that you don't agree with what Trump is doing right now?
Well, I definitely don't like that he's so close to Israel. Definitely don't like that. I mean, it's not. Yeah, I mean, I just want America to stay out of the Middle East. I want America to stay out of, like, I'm one of these people who understands that one of the reasons why there's a migrant crisis, or in fact the reason, is because America keeps destabilizing these countries. Never a fan of that. So yeah, I don't like that he's close to Israel. I don't like that he's cozying up to technocrats and big pharma, like the people he says that he rails against. I understand to an extent in politics you're always going to be surrounded by questionable figures. I don't like that. What are the other major things? Well, just to I guess summarize it. He's not okay. When it comes to, because I'm definitely more libertarian on a lot of things than I am conservative, although my values are very conservative. In the end, he's not taking power away from from big government. In some ways, the government is still getting bigger. So this is where a lot of people say, well, how can you like Trump if you're for small government? I consider myself a realist, so I understand that even though I don't like it, government's never going to get smaller. Unless we make it smaller. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, it gives me something to work with at least. So just so you know a little bit about me, because we didn't really get the chance to chat super deeply on the panel, because I think she ended it prematurely, so I didn't even get the chance to say much at all. I'm also somebody who aligns with libertarianism as like a philosophy. I believe in small government. Most of the stuff that I talk about is like adherence to the law and like precedents for fighting against authoritarianism. I view Donald Trump as somebody who is only in the business of expanding the power of the executive branch and trying to make them more unaccountable to either Congress or the three-letter agencies that are within the executive branch, and trying to, centralize power within the just within the president, basically, which I think whenever people talk about Donald Trump is the first authoritarian to make government smaller, I think the way that we view the government is kind of way too simple. I think Donald Trump's sole interest, and I think this is reflected in his rhetoric a lot, is that he just wants to make the president more powerful. There's a famous quote from him in his first term where he was basically saying, I have an Article 2 ability to do whatever the hell I want. It's really bad rhetoric from an American president. I think a lot of the stuff that he's been fighting for, and the disregard of certain protections in the Constitution, is contrary to what I think the founders would want. In fighting for unitary executive theory, for undermining the authority of the courts, for robbing people of their constitutionally allotted rights. That's more so the angle that I'm coming at it from, is most of my conversations are fighting against, authoritarian overreach. And I think that Donald Trump poses a pretty unique authoritarian threat to the country.
Yeah, and I do see where you're coming from. Now, one of the things that I said on that panel, which, again, the guy who, we, I had an extremely bad falling out with him, so I just blocked him because there's just nothing good's going to come from it. And he did say go kill yourself to me, which I do.
Yeah, which was pretty crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, but not to get too personal here, but one of the things that I said is that, and this is, I understand it sounds controversial, but we're having a good discussion right now. I feel to an extent we do need somebody to, and I was saying this to guys like a big brother to me who lives in California. We do need someone to pull authoritarian-like moves. Now, it sounds crazy, but this is what I'm saying. Look at some of the biggest threats to our society, and I again don't use that word lightly. Wokeness, transgender, just LGBTQ transgender agenda, how badly it's pushed, open borders, all of which Biden and Harris cheerleaded. So therefore, Trump coming in being, very, like I said, very brutal with his rhetoric, saying we're going to close the border, we're going to do mass deportations, saying, we can't give all these people a day in court because if you came in illegally, you blah, blah, blah. Saying, banning, outright saying, no, there's two genders, don't care what else you identify as, and banning transgenders from sports. Yeah. These are all things, again, I'm sure we'll get into some other things he's done, but those are the kind of authoritarian like moves that I don't hide this, I am very much behind, because, and one of the reasons I've drifted a little bit away from libertarianism, I assume you're in the States?
Yeah.
Right, so you probably know of Dr. Ron Paul?
Yeah. We were actually just talking about him.
Oh wow! Huge fan of his. He's somebody I've looked up to for years since I first heard him talk. But one of the reasons I've drifted a little bit away from libertarianism is because libertarian is again about freedom for all, etc. Some of the stuff again I feel is so dangerous and has been again allowed and cheerleaded by. Again, I'll just say it. Mostly people on the left. A lot of people on the right as well have allowed it, but because it's been allowed in, we do need somebody to come in and be very authoritarian, say, "No, we've got to get rid of this stuff." So this is why. This is why I hear what you're saying. I found from my time following politics that anytime you give a human being power, especially presidential power, they're not going to want to give it up. So in some ways, everybody wants to be an authoritarian. Yeah. So I hear it. I hear your concerns on Trump, but this is why again, I'm just kind of repeating myself. So
no, you're good. So here's, I guess, what I think separates Trump to be like a unique threat to the constitutional order of the United States as opposed to any other president is that when you're using authoritarian, you're just talking about like sweeping actions from the executive. But I assume that we're also talking about like legal sweeping actions from the executive, like decent political questions. So when you're talking about like not giving everybody a court date, you're not talking about not giving them the opportunity to appeal to a court. I assume we're talking about like the invocation of the Alien Enemies Act, making it like giving them an expedited process in order to like not have as many hurdles in the way of removing them. And I think that that's a separate question that we could have, but I think my problem comes in where the legal authority that Trump has to be making a lot of the things that he's doing, even under the Alien Enemies Act, is questionably dubious. So even then, I think the authoritarianism is different in nature. But as well, I think Donald Trump was unique in also trying to make sure that he has unaccountable power. So like when you look at Obama, most of the like authoritarian things that they point out that Obama did was usually with the consent of his principal officers and with the consent of Congress. I mean, he was reaching out to his 3-letter agencies, reaching out to different law firms saying like, hey, would this be a legal thing for me to do? Would this be okay? Most of them agreed with them, and then the Supreme Court ended up agreeing with him. With Donald Trump, I mean, we can look at him appealing to the Supreme Court for presidential immunity. We can look at him trying to steal the results of the 2020 election to make sure that like that's the most direct way to make yourself unaccountable is to basically steal an election. And we can go into I'm choosing my words carefully. We can go into like how he behaved around the 2020 election. I think that was one of the most blatant power grabs in the world. To like with the intent to make him unaccountable to the people. I mean, he was voted out of office in 2020, and he tried to get Mike Pence to basically say that he wasn't voted out of office and have him serve 4 years as president anyway. That on top of the fact that he's not only doing like sweeping gestures from the presidency, but he's also doing illegal sweeping gestures from the presidency, I think makes him different in character. The two things that I would want to isolate to is we can either look at the deportations that he's doing, or we can, if you want to hit on 2020, I think those are the two like things that really isolate my problem with Donald Trump.
Okay, well, the deportation. I don't really have much to say on the deportations thing. I mean, again, I'm not a again on my channel I cover combat sports. I do not cover politics,
Sure.
and I'm not going to. And I'm probably going to start doing Patreon and Substack stuff, but again, not for politics. Most likely. So I'm not an expert in debating this kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure.
But the reason why, and it's just these are the kind of things you wouldn't get through in a normal debate with. So, but you and I know you'll understand where I'm not just. You'll understand where I'm coming from. I may disagree, but you'll probably understand where I'm coming from because Biden Harris because they cancelled. They cancelled construction of the border wall. They reversed all of Trump's policies, such as Remain in Mexico, which, by the way, Remain in Mexico, that policy, when Trump put it into law, that got a lot of criticism for violating human rights, whereas actually it was actually just a very sensible policy. So segue into what Biden Harris did, Joe Biden said on his campaign trail, everybody should search the border. So that's how backwards they were. So that is why, again, as harsh as it seems, and as harsh as it is, I should say, with Trump doing the deportations, Biden Harris.
So I think
they're the cause of this.
I think you hit at something good in your opening, or when you were explaining libertarianism, where it's like people who are given like unaccountable power are very unlikely to give it up. There's a term that's like absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's the saying. Yeah. So I just want to. You can fact check me on this if you want, but I just want to read you some facts about what's happening with the deportations and then explain, like, because I've been kind of talking in generalities. I want to just like facts on the ground here. This is what we know. This is why I think it's super scary and super cause for concern, and why I don't think that like this is justified by like pretty liberal border policy from Biden Harris, and I would probably disagree with the characterization that you're giving of that too. But that we can have that conversation secondary. So there's this piece of legislation that was passed near the founding of the country, and it's called the Alien Enemies Act. And what it basically does is if we are at war with a country or if a country is invading us, we're allowed to basically expedite some of the process that we give them in deportation hearings in order to get them out of the country more easily. Donald Trump signed a proclamation of the Alien Enemies Act relating to Venezuelans who are members of Tren de Aragua, which is a transnational gang. They claimed that Tren de Aragua was working on behalf of the Venezuelan government, but the National Security Council, which is, I think, the FBI, the CIA, the DHS, like our security body, basically said that there's no evidence that Maduro was conspiring with Tren de Aragua, just by nature of Tren de Aragua being a decentralized gang, so it's really hard to have top-down initiatives in something that's decentralized. So he signs this proclamation saying that they're working on behalf of the Venezuelan government against the advice from his FBI and the CIA, saying that this is justification for us to remove them and give them expedited process. What expedited process looks like under the Alien Enemies Act could be pretty sparse. So, for instance, the Japanese internment camps you hear of around World War II, those were found to be complying with people's due process rights because they were put before what's called an Alien Enemies Hearing Board, and they would have the ability to basically challenge their designation as an alien enemy. Say like, hey, I'm from this country, you got this fact wrong about me, I'm not applicable under this order, and then they would either deport them or keep them. In this case, as it's been implemented now, it seems like these people were not even given that level of process. So there were people that were being detained on in early March. They were being detained by ICE and questioned about gang affiliation. On the early morning of the 15th, these Venezuelans were transferred to an airport in Texas and loaded up onto planes. There was an issue with the planes, so they didn't end up taking off as quickly as they wanted them to. Officials were reportedly refusing to answer the deportation's questions about where they were being taken. And then because that plane broke down, one of the people that was being loaded onto the plane was able to get a lawsuit out to get a TRO to prevent them from being deported. And all of this was happening before the proclamation of the Alien Enemies Act was even public. So we have Donald Trump rounding people up on the grounds of this thing that hasn't been declared, and we have ICE basically rounding up people without giving them the ability to challenge if they are an alien enemy and trying to get them out of the country as quickly as possible before they can appeal to a court. On its face, I would say that that's unconstitutional because it doesn't comply with any of the case law surrounding the Alien Enemies Act, nor is it a good faith invocation of the Alien Enemies Act. But on top of that, even if we disregard the legal argument, we are opening a lot of doors if we allow this to slide for Trump to basically make a secret police, for them to just start rounding people up with no question from the courts, no question outside of the presidential administration, and getting them outside of the country as quick as possible so our courts don't have jurisdiction. That feels like a crazy, crazy overreach and something that is not in the spirit of America.
Okay, well, to
and I can link real quick. I can link you something to read on that if you want me to as well.
Yes. That'll be in direct messages, I assume. I haven't used Discord.
Yep, that's good. I'll just DM it to you.
I'm just gonna open another tab. Yeah. Okay. Okay. The last thing you said about how this isn't what America. This isn't constitutional with America's values.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I hear you. I just sighed because okay, to again not beat around the bush. I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree because now I'm not defending everything Trump's doing. I think the biggest causes in this whole mess are Biden Harris, because they deliberately flooded the country with as many immigrants, refugees, those seeking asylum, etc., with no due process. I mean, it was the exact opposite. They just opened the country up. So because of that, again, this kind of brutality, you could call it, is needed. So
Okay. So what I would say to that, just so we're not like monologuing super hard, I want to try and keep it like a pretty open conversation. So like the Fifth Amendment, which is a part of the Bill of Rights, you know, that like directly off of the Constitution. Like a lot of the things that they're talking about here are like no person being held without presentation of an indictment, and that doesn't, you know, directly appeal because immigration cases are civil, and this is referring to like criminal prosecutions. But I think the spirit of what they're getting at, and the reason that why we enshrine these protections, is to make sure that no person is like unilaterally punished for a crime that they haven't been proven to commit. And I think that not giving these people the opportunities to appeal to something outside of the executive branch is opening the gates to a lot of unsavory things. And I'm going to ask this question based off of that. So let's say that ICE were to kidnap me today, okay? And
I know where you're going with this.
And they don't answer any of my questions, and they don't let me appeal to a court. What do I do?
Right. And when I say I know where you're going with this, know exactly, like, I knew exactly where you're going with. You're saying, okay, if he's if somebody is pushing the envelope, or phrase that a different way, is being as brutal as they are and pushing their policies with very little regard for what's coming back at him from the other side, and he's doing it all in the name of the good of the country. You're saying, well, where does this end? Like,
well, yes, but
saying,
also just that, like, we already have all of the conditions for this to happen. Like, it's not even like if we kick this precedent down the road 40 years, this could happen. Like, we are setting the precedent right now that they can detain people, not answer their questions, and then kick them out as soon as they can.
And this is where I don't have the perfect answer. I thought I used to when I followed libertarianism, but this, well, again, big follower. Excuse me. Sorry, big follower of Ron Paul still. Big admirer of his, always will be. But the reason why I've understood in a nutshell libertarianism cannot really work in this world is because libertarian will work based on the fact that everyone's fair and rational, and as we know, they're not. So I hear what you're saying. Authoritarianism, even though it's being pushed here in a way that people like me support, and in fact, people are disappointed we're not seeing more of it. You're saying very understandably, well, if any man or woman can do what they want based on what they feel is good for the country, etc., then where does this end? I can also understand what
one caveat I want to add is that not only are they doing what they think is right for the country, but they're also doing it unaccountably. Like there would be no arm to challenge this determination, and there would be no arm to appeal to challenge this determination. It would just be the executive.
Right. Well, and we can again. I've got like 20 more minutes, so you decide when you want to move on. I would just say again, because I do not have the answers, because Biden Harris did what they did. I mean, again, they deliberately tried to sabotage the country. With their policies, with their rhetoric, etc. Because of that, this stuff again is for the future of the country, for the future of America, it is needed. Now, because I'm a realist and I can understand giving anybody certain amounts of power is dangerous. I would love to go back to libertarianism, but again, because we live in a world where there's sneaky people everywhere, you say, well, that I mean this is where we get into the debate topic of why does America need the biggest army in the world, and it's so that other
Mhm.
people such as Russia, being the biggest culprit right now, don't get any funny ideas. So I'm not okay. I guess really to sum it up, I support what Trump is doing. I do see the problems with that, but
Well,
I guess I would say again as
I need something stronger. I'm sorry. So okay.
well.
Um,
Okay, what do you need then?
what
While you
I
say
just
that, I'm just
my
sorry.
aim for this
While you say that, I'm
conversation,
just going to put the jug on. So I'm just going to mute myself.
my wait, sorry.
I'm just going to mute myself while I put the jug on while you
Oh,
answer. So
okay. Yeah,
just
sorry.
carry
Okay.
on.
Yeah, go ahead. There was a linguistic barrier. Okay. So what I'm looking at for this conversation is in almost any conversation I have with a Trump supporter is just to acknowledge that this is opening the door to, and not potentially opening the door, like the door is now open to like the kind of dictatorial rule that would have made the founding fathers throw open their mouth, and that is out unequivocally outside of the imagination of what Americans think is even possible. I think that the line that you're getting at is kind of scary, where it feels like there's infinite amounts of authoritarian action that could be taken just on the grounds of, well, Biden wasn't a good president. And then the question I would ask you is that, let's say that Donald Trump says in 4 years, hey, listen, Biden left me with such a shit show to clean up, and the immigration is so bad that I need another term, and I can't risk losing. So I need this second term in order to, or this third term, guaranteed to me, so I can clean Biden's mess. At that point, would that be justifiable?
Um, no, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be. Now, in 4 years, I'm sure if you asked me, well, do you want Trump to run for a third term, or should we have AOC run for president? I would say I'd much rather prefer a Trump third term. So I get where you're. No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm in. Rules do need to be followed. So I guess okay. I'll try and give you a more satisfactory answer.
Mm-hmm.
I guess. Okay, I'm just going to preempt things. I'm not defending anything I'm about to say. I'm not defending any of it. Governments, we'll use America because that's the focus right now. Have been putting in unconstitutional things that threaten massive government oversight, etc., for decades, unfortunately. And we can talk about when it happened. I'll just go back to the George Bush era after, again, 9/11 happened, and surveillance, Patriot Act, war on terror, all that stuff. That we could say is where all of the set the standard for this, unfortunately, to be this kind of stuff to be allowed. So again, not defending any of it, but I'd just say it's been happening well before Trump.
Well, okay. So the answer that I'm looking for here is
right.
What is like, why is it that the line of the like basically unilateral ability to disappear people is before the line that is bad, but stealing elections is the line after? Especially when, I mean, I would say that Donald Trump already has a history of trying to steal elections. But regardless, why is it that like disappearing people unaccountably is before the line, but no elections is after the line?
Sorry, what do you mean by this? Like,
so so there's a lot. I assume that there's a line that you would say that this is acceptable for Donald Trump to do, and everything past this line is unacceptable. The question that I'm asking is, and like, if it gets past this line, I'd be willing to like advocate against the Trump administration. The question I'm asking is, why is it that not holding an American election is past that line, but like having the unilateral ability to disappear people is before that line?
You're probably not going to like my answer. Disappearing people because it's not past the line because because the country was opened up. So again, I know you're not going to like that answer, but because of what was
Because
Well,
you
okay,
could use the same
well,
justification for the election thing.
well, I, well, I'm not using the, I'm not using the justification for the election thing. Trump felt that he was wronged. His supporters thought, okay, if we protest,
No, I mean
then
this hypothetical. I'm sorry. So like, let's make this hypothetical reality. All right, the next term, Trump says that so many people were let in that we can't. Let's just say that so many people were let in that we can't guarantee the accurate election results. There's going to be too many illegal people voting, so we can't hold an election because it won't be honest. Would that fall behind the line for you?
no, I wouldn't support that.
So why does both of those could be justified while Biden let so many people in that we have to take desperate measures? Why is this past the line, but disappearing people isn't?
Well, okay. See if this answer. See if you like this answer. Okay, the former, so disappearing people, is okay. Okay, there is a problem. Country was opened up in more ways than one. So something has to be done about that. And disappearing people, again, brutal, uncomfortable to watch, etc. But has to be done. The latter, saying, well, we can't have another election because there's no guarantee. Because there's no guarantee that there'll be fair voters, etc. Again, would not support that in the slightest. And okay, why is that past the line, you ask? Two things. I'll give you two answers. One, because because okay, it's just a massive assumption. Oh, we can't have a fair election. Well, you were voted in the previous election, so clearly with all these illegals, it can be fair. And there are, in 4 years' time, there will be significantly fewer illegals than there were when Trump was elected in last year. So that's one thing. The second is, well, actually, no, I was just trying to think you're probably going to say the same thing, just in a different way. There would be no proof that there can't be a fair election because of all those illegals.
Yeah, but then what I would say is that that's obviously not going to hold Trump back because he did the same thing for mail-in voting in 2020. He said that there was no way that this election could be honest because there's so much mail-in voting and it's ripe for potential of fraud. Like he's shown his ability to do this. He's shown his willingness to disregard provable facts or make like giant assumptions that aren't, proven in order to do this. I guess my problem is that I think we're in a really concerning situation where we're willing to like walk back people's due process rights and say that the president has the ability to just get rid of people with no ability to appeal for restitutions of that deportation just because there's a lot of immigrants in the country. Maybe this is a better question. Because it's more one-to-one. Let's say that on the grounds that Obama's birth certificate was fraudulent, which is something that Trump has claimed multiple times, that he was actually born in Kenya or whatever, he gets detained by ICE and then deported. No ability to challenge it. They don't ask for his birth certificate. They just say, you're from Kenya, you're gone, we're not going to ask you any questions, and you're not allowed to file for relief. Would you support something like that?
This is a just to clarify, this is a hypothetical you've just brought up because there's no, I mean, I don't know nothing about I know nothing about Obama's birth certificate, but even if it was found to be fraudulent, he's not getting deported, right? So we are talking about a hypothetical.
So let me explain the facts that I'm trying to isolate here is that Trump claimed that
I see where you're going with this. I'm just saying this isn't going to happen.
Well, but we're opening the door to where it could is the point that I'm making. Like all of the facts are allowing this to happen. It's just that it hasn't.
Well.
And it would be a more brazen step, but it would have just the same justifications as the deportation of the JGG class action people.
Yeah, I understand. Would I support that? Probably not, because first of all, it wouldn't be proven. Like, it wouldn't be proven his birth certificate was fraudulent after all these years. But would I support that? No. I mean, I would support Obama being prosecuted for a lot of other things.
Well,
But
if so, you said that you wouldn't support it because it wouldn't be proven that his birth certificate was fraudulent. What I would say is that if ICE is not answering any of the questions that they're trying to deport the people under, and that there's no ability for these people to appeal out to the courts, then how do
okay,
we
no,
know that they're fraudulent?
okay, no, I wouldn't support that. I support what is again, not everything that's happening now, but overall, I support the generalization of it, meaning mass deportations,
Mm-hmm.
because again of what happened. So because of what happened under Biden Harris, so that is illegals coming in unchecked, unaccountable, blah blah blah.
So do you
That's
think
what I
that?
support Trump
Do you
doing.
think that because that happened?
Just
Go
to
ahead.
finish answering the question, I support getting rid of those people. I don't support going after people who may have come in illegally 10 however many years ago, because that's not unless they're violent criminals. I think we can both agree if they're violent
Yeah.
criminals. Definitely need, unless they're violent criminals, even if they came in illegally, it's just no.
Well,
Go after the people who are actually a threat. Violent criminals who came in unchecked under Biden Harris. That's who Trump should be getting rid of.
the point that I'm making, though, is that we have no way of knowing who is or what the grounds for deportation are if it's just up to ICE's determination that you're illegal and you have no ability to fight it. We have no ability to tell who's legal, who's a member of Tren de Aragua, who is a violent person, who's even a citizen, if they're not given the ability to challenge, hey, I'm not who you think I am, or hey, I'm not an alien enemy, or hey, I'm not an illegal immigrant. We have no ability to know if that's the case if we're just going based off of ICE's determination, which for the people in the lawsuit that I'm referencing that I linked you, seems to be the case. That like there's literal like testimony that the officers that were ushering these people onto planes weren't answering any questions or weren't like taking any concerns.
Yeah, and just because of time, because I'm going to have to head off to work in a few minutes. I would love to pick this up again. Do you mind if I just ask you? Are you is this your job? Are you a content creator, or is this like a side thing for you?
I'm a college student, so I don't have like a set career right now. This is just a hobby that I do when I have free time. But yeah,
because I mean, I like you.
Mhm.
I would love to have further conversations, because I'm very disassociated with members of the political right. People like different reasons. People like Ben Shapiro, Charlie Kirk, Eddie Johnson, Tommy Lahren. Some of these people I agree with some things on, but there's a lot I just cannot fully align with them. So I like these conversations with open-minded people. So I guess for this, I do understand where you're coming from. There's definitely, I guess, well, probably just, in fact, not probably, I am just going to be repeating what I've said before. I see the problems. I mean, ideally, and I think this is something we would align on. When I first discovered Ron Paul, and I was actually listening to what he was saying and listened to what he, I would say, sounds a bit corny, but the revolution he started from within the political monster back in 2008 when he first ran. I came to, because in New Zealand we kind of had our own version of Biden Harris. I was pushing for. I mean, ideally, I would have wanted a situation where where the people can vote. Hey, should these people who are seeking refugee status for whatever, should they be allowed in given the current economic situation? For example, in other words, I would like a situation where I'd like a public voting option where the people would vote for this kind of stuff, but we don't have that. We have authoritarians making the decisions. So in that sense, I don't support what Trump is doing, because I want to support what people do. But because we live in a world where authoritarians make the decisions, again, as from a realist sort of standpoint, I say, well, you have to just critique what is in front of you. I would, as it happens, the reasons why I'm not, well, so therefore so again, just trying to get back on track. I'm just looking at the time.
Mhm.
I understand your concerns about what Trump is doing with the deportations, and if this starts getting applied to regular people, I definitely would not support that.
Well, I mean, we can
My
have
reasons
conversations about that in the future because I think it's already like we're already setting the standard to where that could happen. But if you have a time constraint, then I don't want to I don't want to hold you for super long. So, but I think that hits at a bigger conversation.
well, all of these are these are all bigger conversations. I mean, for example, like what's going on, what's going on in the world on all fronts with war. So yeah, none of which we're talking about are small. I mean, small topics. I guess if I can try and give you maybe leave you with some sort of satisfactory answer, I reason why I support what Trump is doing is because of what was allowed in. Now, everything you've said about what you've asked about, well, how far can this go? Very, very valid. To that, I say, well, we need to hold his feet to the fire, like we should hold any leader's feet to the fire, and make sure that he doesn't overstep his boundaries. And I guess, well, no, I guess we're talking about government overstepping its boundaries. I mean, we could say governments overstep their boundaries we probably have to go back to pre-World War II, pre-Roosevelt to say when they overstep their boundaries. So it's like, well, we're trying to change. Ideally we would like here's the problem. Those of us who see the light and say, well, we don't need authoritarians, we need we need libertarianism.
Mm-hmm.
We live in a world which unfortunately it's not, you can't get to it. So
well, I mean, obviously I disagree with that, but I mean, yeah, I do open calls all the time. Yeah.
In what way do you disagree with it? Just curious.
Well, it depends on how we're looking at libertarianism. Like, I mean, obviously, I don't think that we should abolish the state. Like, that's not the kind of libertarianism that I'm talking about, and I do think that that is unattainable. But the idea of like having a more, I don't want to say neutered because it has like a negative connotation, but like having a more balanced three branches of government, and putting whatever power that we can in the states to make their own decisions. I think that's perfectly attainable. Libertarian in the way that the founders viewed like their government. I think that's perfectly reasonable. I still think that there obviously needs to be a federal government to protect rights, to protect rights from being trampled on by the local governments. But I think that's perfectly attainable. I don't think that these like broad unilateral actions need to be taken, nor have any justification to be taken. And I would say that, I mean, you brought up like we the people holding these, like, whoever's in power's feet to the fire to prevent them from trampling on our rights. I think now is the perfect time to do it before our rights are too far gone, while they're just attacking the rights of the people that we view as unsavory, because it sets precedent. I mean, the only reason that he's doing this is because we set the precedent in World War II to expedite the removal of Japanese people, and the only reason that we did that is, et cetera, et cetera. This is going to be used as precedent, as case law for future trampling of our rights. So if we want to stand up against authority and make sure that our rights aren't being trampled on, I can't think of a better time to do it than now.
I agree with that. I guess to try and, again, maybe just before I go, to try and maybe, I mean, none of this is simple, but try and bring it back to try and give you a simple but big overview answer.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, I would like America don't start these these disastrous, unconstitutional wars. Ideally, I would like that. Therefore, far less people would need refugee status in the first place because their countries would not be getting bombed to shit. Ideally, I would like that. You understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah, sure. We would probably disagree with
'Cause I understand.
about what that looks like, but I mean, that's again another conversation for a different.
Yeah, yeah, it's yeah. Again, none of this is simple. So I understand American foreign policy causes a lot of this disaster, and I don't support any of that. So ideally, I would like American policy to be reversed, but that's not going to happen. So we're unfortunately stuck in the situation we are stuck in. Um, so yeah, so your reservations on Trump, I fully understand. I mean, I would have reservations on him. Um, yeah, if he oversteps his line, I'm not going to support anybody overstepping their lines. I would maybe say that there were a lot of opportunities for him to do things that would have been disastrous in his last term, and he didn't do it. So that is why I'm not as concerned as you are looking ahead. But I do see the red flags. But I see the red flags with anybody.
Well, if you want to have a longer conversation about it sometime, I do call-ins all the time. Just let me know when you're free. I'm usually free, and we can do a longer conversation about it.
All right, man. Peace out. Thanks for the conversation. See you later.
Yep, good chatting. That went well.